Hat's the worst thing someone's accused you of? My best friend Jake accused me of stealing $20,000 from his dying grandmother. He called me at work on a Tuesday afternoon, his voice shaking with rage, saying his grandmother, Betty, had noticed money missing from her savings account, and that I was the only person outside the family who'd visited her house in the past month. I'd gone there 3 weeks ago to help Jake move some furniture. Betty had been bedridden with cancer, barely conscious, and Jake needed help rearranging her bedroom to fit medical equipment. We'd been best friends since middle school. I'd spent hundreds of hours at that house growing up. The accusation felt like being punched in the stomach. Jake told me not to contact him again and hung up before I could defend myself. Within an hour, his entire family had blocked me on everything. His sister posted on Facebook about family betrayal without naming me directly, but everyone knew who she meant. My phone started buzzing with messages from mutual friends asking if it was true. I tried calling Jake back 17 times. Every call went straight to voicemail. I drove to his apartment that night and knocked for 10 minutes while his car sat in the parking lot. He never answered. I could hear him inside, moving around, deliberately ignoring me. The next day, I went to the police station to file a report, to clear my name, to do something. The detective listened to my story and said there wasn't much they could do without evidence. Jake's family believed it was me. The money was gone. I had been in the house. It looked bad. That's when I started thinking about the visit more carefully. Jake had asked me to come on a Wednesday at 2 in the afternoon, very specific timing. He'd said his mom couldn't be there and his sister was at work. We'd be alone with Betty, who was unconscious most of the time. When I'd arrived, Jake had seemed nervous, checking his phone constantly, rushing through the furniture moving. At one point, he'd sent me to the garage to find a dolly, and I'd been gone maybe 10 minutes. The garage had been a disaster, and it took forever to find anything. Then there was the weird moment when I'd used Betty's bathroom. When I came out, Jake had been standing in her bedroom doorway with his phone out, like he'd been taking a photo. He'd said he was texting his mom an update, but why would he need a photo for that? I started asking around carefully, reaching out to people who still spoke to me. Jake's cousin Emma agreed to meet me for coffee. She seemed uncomfortable, kept looking over her shoulder like someone might see us. She told me the family had discovered the theft 3 days after my visit, that Betty's bank had flagged suspicious transfers totaling exactly $19,800. But here's what bothered me. Betty had been unconscious. She wasn't capable of checking her bank account or noticing anything missing. Someone else had discovered it and told the family it was me. I asked Emma who had found the missing money. She hesitated, then said Jake had been checking Betty's accounts because he had power of attorney. He'd noticed the transfers and immediately accused me. I went home and pulled up my bank statements, my credit cards, anything that could prove I hadn't deposited or spent $19,000. Everything was normal. No unusual activity. No large purchases. Nothing. Then I remembered something. When I'd been in Betty's garage looking for the dolly, I'd seen boxes of her old financial records stacked near the door. Bank statements, tax returns, stuff Jake's mom was probably planning to sort through. I hadn't thought anything of it at the time, but what if those records showed something? What if Jake needed me there to blame someone for money that was already missing? I drove to Betty's house at midnight, parked down the street, and watched. The house was dark. Betty had been moved to hospice 2 weeks ago. Nobody was living there anymore. I knew where the spare key was hidden, and that's when I found what I'd been looking for. The rest of the story is linked below or on my channel. The spare key is right where it's always been, tucked inside the ceramic frog Betty keeps by her back door. My hands shake as I slide it into the lock, turning it slowly to minimize the noise. The door creaks open, and I step into the dark house that feels like a tomb of memories. I've been in Betty's house hundreds of times over the years, but never like this. Never as an intruder in the middle of the night, desperate to clear my name. The familiar scent of her lavender potpourri still lingers, but there's a staleness to the air now that she's been gone for weeks. I pull out my phone and use the flashlight to navigate, careful to keep the beam low and away from windows. The living room is exactly as I remember it. Photos of Jake and his family lining the walls, the same floral couch where we used to play video games after school. Everything looks normal, which somehow makes what I'm doing feel even more wrong. Focus, I whisper to myself. The financial documents, that's what I need. I make my way to Betty's home office, a small converted bedroom where she used to pay bills before she got sick. The door is partially open, and I can see filing cabinets against the far wall. I step inside and start opening drawers, searching through neatly labeled folders. In the second drawer, I find what I'm looking for, a thick folder marked Bank Statements, 2023. I pull it out and begin flipping through the pages, scanning for anything suspicious around the time of my visit. And there it is, a transfer dated 3 days before I helped Jake move furniture. $19,800, withdrawn from Betty's savings account and transferred to an account I don't recognize. The timing can't be a coincidence. Jake had already taken the money before I ever set foot in the house. My heart pounds as I dig deeper, finding more folders labeled with Jake's name. One contains a power of attorney document, signed by Betty 6 months ago when she was first diagnosed. It gives Jake complete control over her finances, allowing him to make transfers, withdraw money, even open new accounts in her name. Another folder contains Jake's personal financial statements. Why would Betty have these, unless she was helping him? The numbers tell a devastating story. Jake is drowning in debt. Credit card statements show balances totaling over $30,000. There's a notice of default on his car loan, collection agency letters, a statement from a payday loan company charging obscene interest. He needed the money, I mutter, the pieces falling into place. He took it from Betty, then blamed me to cover his tracks. I pull out my phone and start taking photos of everything, the power of attorney, the transfer records, Jake's debt statements. Each click of my camera feels like another nail in the coffin of our friendship. As I'm photographing a bank statement showing Jake's overdrawn checking account, I hear a noise from the front of the house, a car door closing, footsteps on the porch. I freeze, my blood turning to ice. The front door opens. I quickly shut off my phone light and duck behind the desk, praying whoever it is won't come to the office. The hallway light flicks on, casting a thin strip of yellow under the door. I know you're in here, a woman's voice calls out. Your car isn't exactly subtle, parked 2 houses down with the college sticker on the back. It's Emma, Jake's sister, the one person in his family who'd been willing to meet with me. I stand up slowly, knowing I'm caught. Emma, I can explain. She appears in the doorway, arms crossed over her chest. She's wearing pajamas under her coat, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She must have followed me here. Breaking and entering is a crime, she says, but her voice lacks conviction. I should call the police. Police. Go ahead, I reply, holding up the bank statements. Then they can see these too. Jake stole the money. Emma. He took it 3 days before I even came to the house. He set me up. Her expression changes, not to surprise, but to something more complicated, a mixture of resignation and grief. She steps into the office and closes the door behind her. I know, she whispers. You know? I echo, stunned. Emma sinks into Betty's desk chair, suddenly looking exhausted. I didn't know for sure, but I suspected. Jake's been in trouble for months. He lost his job back in February and has been pretending to go to work every day. He gambles. Online mostly, but sometimes at that casino across the state line. I hand her the statements showing Jake's debt, and she nods as she flips through them. Betty found out last month, Emma continues. She was going to cut him off, make him get help. Then suddenly she's accusing you of stealing money? She shakes her head. It didn't add up. Why didn't you say something? I ask. The betrayal's still fresh. He's my brother, she says simply, as if that explains everything. And in a way, it does. But this, she holds up the transfer record showing the exact amount Jake accused me of stealing. This is worse than I thought. I take back the papers, adding them to my growing pile of evidence. I need to clear my name, Emma. Everyone thinks I stole from a dying woman. Emma stands up, her decision made. Take what you need. I'll give you 10 minutes, then I was never here. She moves toward the door, then pauses. Jake's in deeper than you know. He owes money to people who don't send collection letters. Be careful. She slips out, leaving me alone with the damning evidence. I quickly finish photographing everything, then carefully return the files exactly as I found them. Jake can't know I was here, not yet. As I lock the back door and return the key to the ceramic frog, I feel a strange mix of vindication and sadness. I have proof of my innocence now, but at the cost of confirming that my best friend since middle school betrayed me in the worst possible way. The drive home is a blur of streetlights and racing thoughts. Jake's desperate enough to frame me for theft. According to Emma, he owes money to dangerous people, and now I have evidence that could destroy him. What I don't have is a plan for what to do next. I drive Emma home in silence, my mind racing with everything I've just discovered. The streetlights cast alternating shadows across her face as she stares out the window, lost in her own thoughts. When I pull up to her apartment building, she doesn't immediately get out. Jake's in trouble, she finally says, turning to face me. Not just financial trouble. He owes money to people who don't exactly have payment plans. What kind of people, I ask, though I already suspect the answer. Emma rubs her temples. Loan sharks, bookies. I don't know all the details, but I've seen the texts on his phone. They're not subtle with their threats. She reaches for the door handle, but pauses. I'm sorry about what he did to you. Jake's always been selfish, but this is different. He's desperate. After dropping Emma off, I spend the night organizing the evidence I've collected. By morning, I have a folder full of photos showing Jake's debt, the power of attorney document, and most damning of all, the transfer record showing he took the exact $19,800 he accused me of stealing 3 days before I ever set foot in Betty's house. I take everything to the police station, asking to speak with the detective who took Jake's original complaint against me. Detective Morales is a tired-looking man with salt and pepper hair who listens without expression as I lay out my case. So you're saying Mr. Coleman framed you, he says when I finish, tapping my folder with his pen. Yes, the evidence is right there. He flips through the photos, his expression unchanged. And you obtained these how? My stomach drops. I went to Betty's house. Did you have permission to enter the premises? I hesitate. Not exactly, but so you broke in. He closes the folder. Mr. Chen, I understand you're upset about these accusations, but committing a crime to prove your innocence isn't the way to go. But the evidence was obtained illegally. He cuts me off. And even if it wasn't, these photos don't definitively prove anything. We need more than circumstantial evidence to investigate Mr. Coleman for fraud. I leave the station feeling defeated. The detective's words echo in my head. They need more evidence. But how am I supposed to get that when Jake controls access to Betty and her records? Over the next few days, things get worse. Jake starts telling everyone that I not only stole from Betty, but that I threatened her for money when she confronted me. The story spreads through our social circle like wildfire. My phone buzzes constantly with texts from mutual friends. How could you? Betty was always so nice to you. Jake says you threatened a dying woman. Is that true? I try to defend myself, but Jake has gotten to them first, and his version of events has taken root. By Wednesday, I've been uninvited from 3 social gatherings and blocked by half a dozen people on social media. Desperate for something more concrete, I remember Betty's habit of journaling. She's been keeping diaries since before I met Jake in middle school, leather-bound books, where she recorded everything from grocery lists to family disagreements. If Jake has been manipulating her finances, there's a chance she wrote about it. I call Emma, who agrees to help me. She still has a key to Betty's house and legitimate reasons to be there, checking on things while Betty's in the hospital. The next day, she texts me a photo of 3 journals she found hidden in Betty's nightstand. These are the most recent ones. I'll drop them at your place tonight. The journals are a goldmine. Betty's handwriting is shaky but legible, and as I flip through the pages, a pattern emerges. Entries from 6 months ago show her growing suspicion that Jake was taking money without asking. She writes about confronting him, his tearful confession about gambling debts, her decision to help him one last time. Then more suspicions, more confrontations, more promises from Jake to stop. The most recent entry, dated just 2 weeks before I helped move furniture, is devastating. Jake took another $5,000 today, says it's for car repairs, but I called his mechanic and they haven't seen him in months. I'm changing my accounts tomorrow. No more chances. He needs to face consequences. I photograph every relevant page, making sure the dates are clearly visible. This is the evidence I need. Betty's own words documenting Jake's pattern of financial abuse. I'm about to call Emma when my phone rings. Unknown number. Hello? Having fun playing detective? Jake's voice is cold, controlled anger vibrating in every syllable. My blood freezes. Jake, Emma told me everything. Breaking into Aunt Betty's house, going through her private papers. The police are very interested in your recent activities. The police already know what you did. I bluff. The transfers, the power of attorney, using it to steal from Betty and frame me. Steal? He laughs, but there's no humor in it. I'm her family. Everything she has is going to be mine eventually anyway. I just needed it a little sooner. So you admit it. I'm not admitting anything, he snaps, but I am warning you. Back off, or things will get much worse for you. You have no idea who you're dealing with or what I'm capable of. Is that a threat? It's a promise, Jake says, his voice dropping to a whisper. You're playing a dangerous game. name. Some of the people I owe money to would be happy to collect from you instead. Think about that before you keep digging. The line goes dead. I stand there, phone still pressed to my ear, as the reality of the situation hits me. Jake is cornered and desperate, exactly the combination Emma warned me about. But I'm not backing down, not when I'm this close to clearing my name. I look down at Betty's journal, still open to her last entry about Jake's betrayal. There's a line I missed before, written in shakier handwriting at the bottom of the page. If anything happens to me, Jake is responsible. He's not the boy I raised anymore. Betty knew. She knew exactly what Jake was capable of, and she was afraid. The realization hardens my resolve. This isn't just about clearing my name anymore. It's about justice for Betty. I need to see her, to hear the truth from her own lips. According to Emma, Betty's been asking for me, confused about why I haven't visited. Jake has been intercepting my attempts to see her, telling the hospital staff I'm not allowed in, but now I have a plan. Betty deserves to know the truth about Jake before it's too late, and I need her testimony to expose what he's done. Tomorrow, I'll find a way into her hospital room, no matter what obstacles Jake puts in my way. As I carefully place Betty's journals in my desk drawer, my phone buzzes with a text from Emma. Jake knows I helped you. He's furious. Be careful. I text back, you too. Things are about to get worse before they get better. I get the call from Emma at 3:17 a.m. My phone vibrates against the nightstand, jolting me awake from a fitful sleep filled with dreams of Jake's threatening voice. They've moved Betty to hospice, Emma says, her voice thick with emotion. The doctors say it could be days, maybe hours. I sit up, suddenly wide awake. Jake knows. He's the one who authorized the transfer. He's been at the hospital all day, but he just left to go home and shower. There's a pause. If you want to see her, now's your chance. 30 minutes later, I'm pulling into Lakeside Hospice Center, a low-lying brick building surrounded by carefully maintained gardens that look ghostly in the pre-dawn light. The night nurse barely looks up as I sign the visitor log, writing family in the relationship column without being asked. Room 112, she says, pointing down a dimly lit hallway. She's been in and out of consciousness. Betty's room is quiet except for the soft hiss of oxygen and the gentle beeping of monitors. She looks so much smaller than I remember, lost in the white hospital bedding, her skin nearly translucent. I stand in the doorway for a moment, suddenly unsure. Betty? I whisper, moving to her bedside. Her eyes remain closed, but I take a seat in the vinyl chair next to her bed anyway. I gently take her hand, careful not to disturb the IV line. It's me, I say. I'm sorry I haven't visited. Jake told them I wasn't allowed. For several minutes, I just sit there holding her hand, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest. I tell her about finding the journals, about discovering what Jake has done. It feels good to say it all out loud, even if she can't hear me. I need your help, Betty, I say finally. Jake framed me. He took your money and blamed me for it. I need you to tell the truth before. I stop myself from saying before it's too late, but the words hang in the air anyway. To my surprise, Betty's fingers twitch in mine, and her eyelids flutter. I lean forward, hardly daring to breathe. Betty, can you hear me? Her eyes open slowly, unfocused at first, then sharpening as they find my face. Recognition flickers across her features. You came, she whispers, her voice barely audible. Of course I came. I've been trying to see you for weeks. She nods slightly, as if this confirms something she already knew. Jake said, you were angry with me. No, never. I squeeze her hand gently. Betty, I need to ask you something important. The money that went missing, $19,800, I didn't take it. Her eyes fill with tears. I know. Those two words hit me like a physical blow. You know, Jake has been taking money for months. Each word seems to cost her tremendous effort. Small amounts at first, then more. When I confronted him, he said, you took it, showed me papers. He forged them, I say, fighting to keep my voice steady. He transferred the money himself 3 days before I came over. I found the bank records at your house. Betty closes her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. I should have known. You wouldn't. It's not your fault, I assure her. Betty, would you be willing to tell the police to clear my name? She nods weakly. Yes, I'll tell them everything. I pull out my phone. I can record you saying it now, so there's proof, even if. The door swings open behind me, and I turn to see Jake standing in the doorway, his hair still damp from his shower. For a moment, we just stare at each other, shock mirrored on both our faces. What the hell are you doing here? He demands, striding into the room. You're not allowed to be here. I stand up, positioning myself between him and Betty. She knows, Jake. She knows you took the money and blamed me. His face contorts with rage. Get out, now. Or what? You'll frame me for something else? I hold up my phone. I've been recording this whole conversation. Betty just admitted you've been stealing from her for months. Jake's eyes dart to the phone, then to Betty, who's watching us with wide, fearful eyes. Something in his expression shifts, calculation replacing anger. You broke into my aunt's house, he says, his voice suddenly calm. You stole her private journals. You snuck into a hospice facility under false pretenses to harass a dying woman, and now you're recording her without consent. He smiles coldly. I wonder what the police will think about all that. They'll be more interested in your financial fraud. It's my word against yours, and who do you think they'll believe? The devoted nephew who's been by her side through her illness, or the desperate friend trying to clear his name with illegally obtained evidence? He's right, and we both know it. Everything I've done to expose him has been technically illegal. Even this recording might not be admissible if Betty isn't considered competent. Jake, Betty's voice is stronger now, drawing both our attention. Stop this. He moves to her bedside, taking her other hand. Aunt Betty, you need to rest. He's upsetting you. You took my money, she says clearly. You blamed him. Jake's face hardens. You're confused. The medication. I'm not confused. Her voice is weak, but determined. I know what you did. Jake leans in close to her, his back to me. Aunt Betty, please. I had to take that money. Those people would have hurt me. They were threatening me. His voice breaks. Everything I did because I had no choice. I realize with a jolt that he's forgotten about my phone, which is still recording. In his desperation to convince Betty, he's admitting everything. You had choices, Betty whispers. You chose wrong. Jake straightens up, running a hand through his hair. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I took the money. Yes, I blamed him. I needed it more than he needed his reputation. He turns to face me, his expression defiant. I owe dangerous people who don't care about excuses or payment plans. They were going to break my legs, or worse. So, you decided to sacrifice me instead? I ask, making sure my phone captures every word. It wasn't personal, Jake says, as if that makes it better. I just needed someone to take the fall, and you were there. Convenient. 20 years of friendship friendship and I was just convenient? Jake laughs bitterly. What was I supposed to do? Let them kill me over gambling debts? The money is gone, spent, paid to people you don't want to know, and I'd do it again if I had to. Betty makes a small pained sound and Jake turns back to her, his face softening. I'm sorry, Aunt Betty. I really am, but he doesn't understand what I'm dealing with. I slip my phone into my pocket. The recording safely stopped and saved. I understand perfectly, I say. And now, so will the police. Jake's head snaps up. You can't prove anything. I move toward the door. I think I just did. If you go to the police, I'll tell them you threatened me, that you're the one who's been stealing from Betty all along. I pause at the doorway. You can try, but unlike you, I have evidence. As I walk out, I hear Betty's voice, soft but clear. Jake, it's over. Let him go. In the hallway, I lean against the wall, my heart pounding. The recording in my pocket feels like a ticking bomb. Jake has just confessed to everything. The theft, the framing, all of it. It's the evidence I've been searching for. But as I listen to Betty's monitors beeping steadily through the door, I wonder if justice is worth the pain it will cause her in her final days. Jake is still her nephew, the boy she raised. Can I really tear her family apart when she has so little time left? I pull out my phone and play back the recording. Jake's voice crystal clear. Yes, I took the money. Yes, I blamed him. Evidence. Vindication. The power to clear my name. I walk slowly toward the exit, the weight of the decision heavy on my shoulders. Betty knows the truth now. Maybe that's enough for tonight. Tomorrow will be time enough to decide what to do with Jake's confession. I get the call at 3:27 a.m. Emma's voice cracks through the phone, barely audible over her sobbing. She's gone, is all she can say at first. I sit up in bed, my mind instantly clearing despite the hour. When? About an hour ago. They called Jake first and he called me. Emma takes a shuddering breath. The funeral is Saturday. Jake's already making arrangements. The news hits me like a physical blow. Even though we all knew Betty was dying, there's a finality to her passing that makes everything we've been through feel suddenly more urgent. I have the recording of Jake's confession, but Betty's gone now. She can't tell her story. I'm so sorry, Emma, I say, my own voice thick with emotion. Are you okay? Not really. She pauses. Jake's acting like nothing happened at the hospice. Like you were never there. He's telling everyone what a devoted nephew he was until the end. I close my eyes, seeing Betty's face in my mind the moment she confirmed Jake had framed me. He can't just get away with this. The funeral, Emma says, her voice steadying. Everyone will be there. All the family, friends, people who've been believing his lies about you. I understand immediately what she's suggesting. That seems, I don't know, disrespectful? Using Betty's funeral to expose Jake? Betty wanted the truth to come out. You heard her. Emma's voice hardens. What's disrespectful is Jake standing over her casket pretending to grieve while he's stolen from her and ruined your reputation. She's right, but the thought of confronting Jake at the funeral makes my stomach turn. Still, I've run out of options. The police won't take me seriously without stronger evidence, and now I have that evidence, Jake's own confession. I'll be there, I say finally. Saturday arrives with appropriately gloomy weather, gray clouds hanging low over the cemetery as people gather under the funeral tent. I stand at the back, aware of the stares and whispers as people notice me. Most haven't seen me since Jake spread his lies about me stealing from Betty. Jake stands at the front near the casket, playing the role of grieving nephew perfectly. He shakes hands with mourners, accepts condolences with a practiced, solemn nod. He hasn't noticed me yet. Emma approaches, dressed in black, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. Ready? I pat my pocket where my phone sits, loaded with the recording, as I'll ever be. The service is brief but touching. Betty's pastor speaks about her generosity and kindness, her love for her family. Then Jake steps up to deliver the eulogy, and my hand tightens around my phone. My Aunt Betty was the most generous person I've ever known. He begins, his voice thick with manufactured emotion. She was always there for me, supporting me through difficult times, believing in me when no one else did. I feel a surge of anger at his audacity. He's describing the very qualities he exploited to steal from her. She taught me the importance of family, of loyalty, Jake continues, his eyes scanning the crowd. He spots me and falters momentarily before recovering, of honesty and integrity. That's when I step forward, moving through the crowd toward the front. Jake watches me approach, his expression hardening. I'd like to say something, I announce, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent gathering. Jake steps toward me, lowering his voice. This is not the time or place. Have some respect. Respect? I repeat, loud enough for everyone to hear. Like the respect you showed Betty when you stole $19,800 from her account and blamed me for it? Gasps ripple through the crowd. Emma moves to stand beside me, a silent show of support. He's lying, Jake says, addressing the crowd. He's been harassing my family ever since we caught him stealing from Aunt Betty. I pull out my phone. I have proof. Betty's own words and yours. Jake lunges for my phone, but I step back. Everyone needs to hear this. I press play, and Betty's frail voice fills the silence. Jake has been taking money for months. Small amounts at first, then more. When I confronted him, he said you took it, showed me papers. Then Jake's voice clear and damning. Fine, you want the truth? Yes, I took the money. Yes, I blamed him. I needed it more than he needed his reputation. The recording continues, capturing every word of his confession. Jake stands frozen, his face draining of color as his own voice betrays him. When it finally ends, the silence is absolute. Betty's sister, Jake's mother, steps forward, her face a mask of shock and grief. Jake, is this true? Jake looks around wildly, like a cornered animal. It's taken out of context. He tricked me into saying those things. You admitted to stealing from her, I say quietly. You admitted to framing me because I was convenient. Those were your exact words. I had gambling debts, Jake shouts, abandoning his denials. They were going to hurt me. What was I supposed to do? Not betray your best friend since middle school, I reply. Not steal from a dying woman who loved you. Jake's mother turns away from him, covering her face with her hands. Other family members stare at him with disgust and disappointment. I've already sent this recording to Detective Morales, I continue, along with copies of Betty's journal entries documenting your theft and the bank records showing the transfer you made 3 days before I came to help you move furniture. Jake's face contorts with rage. You broke into her house. You stole her journals. And you stole $19,800 from a dying woman and framed an innocent person, Emma interjects. Which do you think the police will care about more? As if on cue, a police cruiser pulls up to the cemetery entrance. Detective Morales steps out, accompanied by another officer. Jacob Coleman, Morales calls as he approaches. We need to speak with you regarding allegations of financial financial exploitation and fraud. Jake looks at me with pure hatred before turning to run. He doesn't get far. The second officer intercepts him before he reaches the parking lot, and within moments, Jake is being handcuffed and led to the police car. I watch as they drive away, feeling a complicated mix of vindication and sadness. This wasn't how I wanted things to end between us. After the funeral, people approached me one by one, friends who'd believed Jake's lies, neighbors who'd looked at me with suspicion, even Betty's family members who'd been told I threatened her for money. "I'm so sorry I doubted you," says Mark, a mutual friend since high school. "Jake was so convincing. We should have known better," adds Sarah, another friend. 20 years of friendship, and we threw it away because of his lies. I accept their apologies with grace, though the hurt of their easy betrayal still stings. Emma stands beside me through it all, a steadfast ally when everyone else abandoned me. Later, after everyone has gone, I return to Betty's grave alone. The fresh mound of earth is covered in flowers, a testament to how many lives she touched with her kindness. "I'm sorry it had to happen this way," I tell her, placing a single white rose on her headstone. "But the truth is out now. Jake will face consequences for what he did." As I turn to leave, I notice Jake's mother standing a few feet away, watching me. "I wanted to thank you," she says, her eyes red from crying. "Not for exposing Jake, though, that needed to happen, but for caring enough about Betty to fight for the truth. She deserved better," I say simply. She nods. "Yes, she did." She hesitates. "The bank called this morning. They've been investigating Jake's transactions for weeks. There were more, going back months. He took nearly $50,000 in total." The amount stuns me. Jake must have been in even deeper than I realized. "What will you do now?" she asks. I look back at Betty's grave, thinking about everything that's happened since that day. Jake asked me to help move furniture and sent me to the garage for 10 minutes looking for a dolly. 10 minutes he used to set me up. "Move forward," I answer finally. "Try to rebuild what Jake destroyed." As I walk back to my car, my phone buzzes with a text from Detective Morales. "Bank confirmed fraud pattern. Coleman confessed to everything. Charges filed. Thank you for your persistence." 20 years of friendship ended by betrayal and desperation. But as I drive away from the cemetery, I feel a weight lifting. My name is cleared. The truth is known. And Betty, wherever she is now, can finally rest in peace.